Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. The point of today's show is controlled opposition. Keaton Weiss of Do Dissidents makes the point that MSNBC is controlled opposition. I'd like to make the further point that the controllers of MSNBC are using a lot of different people and entities to foist controlled opposition on the rest of us. So if you understand Hillary Clinton in the context of controlled opposition and what it is, there are two kinds of controlled opposition, and there's a more subtle and a less subtle kind of controlled opposition. We'll let Keaton explain that here. Vladimir Lenin once said, "The best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves." That's what's been going on. The term controlled opposition isn't widely used, but when it is nowadays, it typically refers to the likes of Alex Jones. The theory is that Jones, and other conspiracy theorists like him, by distracting his followers with paranoia and misinformation about fake conspiracies like the Sandy Hook Massacre and 9/11, disempowers them and neuters their ability to effectively oppose real systemic forces that actually have tangible negative effects on their lives. In this example, the controlled opposition functions as a sensationalistic sideshow. That's how Donald Trump also functions, in which real-world problems of oligarchy, militarism, and authoritarianism are caricatured to such extremes that people feel powerless to resist them. But controlled opposition can also take on another form, one that doesn't over-radicalize the opposition movement, but rather sterilizes it by tempering the convictions of its members. An example of this would be Gabriel Riquetti, Count of Maribor, who during the French Revolution established himself as a key revolutionary leader while at the same time supporting a more moderate vision of constitutional monarchy. It was discovered after his death that he was actually being paid by King Louis XVI the entire time. Let that sink in. Think about Democrats, think about the DNC, think about Third Way, think about Center for American Progress, think about David Brock, think about Hillary Clinton, think about Joe Biden, and most of all probably think about Elizabeth Warren. Somebody's being paid by the opposition, the oligarchs, to make it look like there's opposition to the bad guys. So you've got the bad guys, and then you've got the less bad guys, and they're all working for the same people. MSNBC, as an example, is also controlled opposition of the latter variety. They had a big week, quite a few weeks ago, as hosts of the first two Democratic presidential primary debates, but really they've had a few big years now. Since the election of Donald Trump, they have carved out a niche for themselves as the go-to network for the resistance. And it improves their ratings, and it makes people think that they're actually doing something useful in the fight against oppression, which is Donald Trump. Rachel Maddow, who became #1 in her time slot for the first time ever after Trump's inauguration, covered the Russian interference matter more than all other topics combined through April of 2017. So that's the Russiagate. It helps ratings, and it makes it look like Democrats are doing something useful. And it makes it look like MSNBC is doing something useful. MSNBC, Democratic Party, it's the same thing. And the corruption is coming from the same place. So they've got all of the shiny objects and centered around Russia. Let me show you I know this is probably not smooth enough, but let me show you the Moscow Stole It narrative is a fancy version of "The dog ate my homework" for a dismal, dollar-drenched Democratic Party that abandoned the working class and the causes of peace, social justice, and environmental sustainability long ago. Okay, so let's jump to Jimmy Dore now. And now that you've been set up with the idea of controlled opposition, listen to what he says about impeachment.
So I just want to give you the 411 on how bad impeachment is for Democrats. Now, here's someone. This is Margaret Kimberly. She's from the Black Agenda Report.
She's great.
And she's great.
I like her work a lot.
And she's great. What she tweeted out was, no one who supported Trump in 2016 will change their minds because of impeachment. I'll give you one better. In fact, it will boost his poll numbers and help him get reelected. If you're cheering on impeachment, congrats. You're a tool of the establishment. That's not hyperbole. You are.
I mean, like I said before, too, I mean, I think it's going to push some people back to him, too.
This is pushing people back to Trump.
It's going to push people back to him. People that were kind of like, this guy, no, I don't think I'm going to roll the dice again. Well, maybe I will now.
Joe Biden is a racist, says, sorry, guys, I can't be with you on this one, meaning impeachment. At worst, it energizes Trump's base. At best, it works to uphold the myth that an opposition party exists in America.
That's the point. And he's going to flesh it out even more. But just keep thinking about controlled opposition in light of what Joe Biden is a racist says. It's fun to say Joe Biden is a racist. I'm thankful that this guy picked that for his Twitter name.
That is frickin' well said.
No, that's well said, and she's got receipts for that too. We all do, because you see what has gone on simultaneously.
That's right.
All the gifts that
look
Trump
what's happening exactly at the same time they're impeaching him. I don't know what Pyrrhic means. What does Pyrrhic mean? Do you know? You speak 5 languages, Ruby.
She had to look it up.
Great a cost to have been worthwhile for the victor.
Oh, great cost for the victory. So you paid a big price for that. So it's a Pyrrhic victory. So it's actually a loss. So this person says, this entire impeachment circus has energized Trump's base and made him more difficult to defeat in 2020. Democrats are bad at politics, and they link to this article. It's a new Gallup. It says Trump's approval inches up while support for impeachment dips. President Trump's job approval rating, currently at 45%, has increased 6 points since the House impeachment.
Right. Sad.
This guy says the Democrats are bad at politics. They're on his side.
That's the point we're going to make about Hillary in a few minutes. They're not bad at politics. You think they're terrible at politics because of how inept they seem. They're all working for the same people. So you you look at them and you think, oh, they're terrible at this. And we love to make fun of them. But they're laughing all the way to the bank. Their gravy train stays on the tracks because of the idea that we all have that they're bad at politics. They're not bad at politics.
Why else would they approve his $750 billion military budget, extraordinary spying powers, and confirm his lifetime federal judge appointments? Why else? The Democrats are not opposing Trump. So this idea that they're bad at politics, I get it. You want to think that, logically you go, wow, they're bad at politics. They're not. They are chosen to do this. And what is this? Whatever the establishment wants. So the establishment doesn't want them to actually oppose Trump's judges or his war budget or his NAFTA or his spying powers or anything.
Right.
So they can pretend to oppose him with impeachment. And so if you're supporting impeachment, you're doing exactly what the establishment and the donor class want you to do, because it's a head fake. Just like she says. It works to uphold the myth that an opposition party exists in America, which it doesn't.
Which it doesn't. Yes, it certainly doesn't. All right, now we step to the queen of the controlled opposition, the most destructive Democrat in modern American history, according to Lauren Martinchek on Medium. Within the oligarchic structure of modern American politics, it should come as no surprise that Bernie Sanders has ruffled the feathers of quite a few, both inside the government and out. But as much as the donor class on both the left and the right might not like Bernie, I don't think anyone else thoroughly despises him more than does Hillary Clinton. Since she was forced to share a debate stage with the Vermont senator when he challenged her for the nomination back in 2015, Hillary Clinton has not exactly been subtle about her feelings towards the man who dared to run against her. As of late, it appears that Ms. Clinton can't speak in public without sharing her thoughts on his movement. That's true of Barack Obama also. I think it's interesting. I think Lauren, I think she'll tip her hand in a minute. The reason she's talking about Hillary, and if I post anything about Hillary on Facebook or Twitter, people will say, "Why are we talking about Hillary? She's not running." But we had a clip from The Hill earlier where one of the guests on this show said, "I think she's poised to jump in here, like Bloomberg and Deval Patrick. I think she's poised to jump in here if she feels that her minions, Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, can't get the job done." Same with Obama. If he could jump back in, he certainly would. But he'll do everything he can to keep the Democrats functioning as non-functioning. However you can think of to say that, they're functioning perfectly to cause the gridlock necessary so that nothing ever gets done, and nobody like Bernie will ever get any traction. The DNC has been doing that for at least 100 years, rigging the system against populist insurgents, and Hillary is just one of the best at it. So since she was forced onto a debate stage with the Vermont senator, she has been really clear. I guess it gives you a picture of how the controlled opposition works in a less subtle way than with some politicians. In a piece by CNN's Chris Cillizza, Clinton's recent Howard Stern interview was addressed and stated, asked by Stern whether she hated Sanders for the long primary campaign he ran against her in 2016 and the slowness with which he offered his eventual endorsement, Clinton said, "I don't hate anybody," before adding about the time it took Sanders to endorse her. "He could have. He hurt me. There's no doubt about it. And I hope he doesn't do it again to whoever gets the nomination. Once is enough." Let's be clear, Hillary Clinton is without doubt the most destructive Democrat in modern American history. For years now, Bernie Sanders has been blamed for the disunity that continues to be showcased out in the open within the Democratic Party. For years, his campaign has been blamed for Clinton's loss to Donald Trump. For years, he has been treated with hostility by Clinton surrogates, pundits, and other Democratic Party insiders for having the temerity to think he might have something to offer the American people that could be better than what Hillary Clinton had. Unwilling to accept responsibility for her own electoral defeat and poor campaign strategy, Hillary Clinton has carried this bitterness and resentment towards Bernie Sanders around with her, never afraid to put it on display when given the opportunity, and getting increasingly more brazen each time she does so. I think she's panicking. I think she's scared shitless, and so is Barack Obama, and so is the whole establishment, that Bernie Sanders might win. And the more afraid they get, the less subtle they are in their controlled opposition. So it will never cease to amaze me that Clinton and her friends in the Democratic Party machine have the audacity to accuse Bernie Sanders of being divisive when it is Clinton who continues to stir the pot and deepen the divide with comments like the ones she shared with Howard Stern. Out of everything she said, the last line is what bothered me, and I'm sure many other leftists the most. And I hope he doesn't do it again to whoever gets the nomination. Once is enough. As even CNN's Chris Cillizza didn't shy away from pointing out, that was clearly the not-so-subtle implication that Clinton still feels Bernie has absolutely no chance of winning the nomination, let alone a general election. I think Lauren doesn't give Hillary enough credit. I think Hillary does think that he has a chance, and I think that's why she dismisses him. It's the same with MSDNC ignoring Bernie. If they pay attention to him, they already know what that does because that's what they do to Donald Trump, and his ratings go up. They try to impeach him. His ratings go up. They pay attention to him, and his ratings go up. So they know better than to pay attention to Bernie, so they ignore Bernie. And they dismiss Bernie. And they act as though he's a joke, and there's no way he could ever win the nomination, so why doesn't he just get out of the way now? Which is what people with their head out of their butts will say about Elizabeth Warren. Why doesn't she just get out of the way now? Everyone knows that she's an imitation of Bernie, why is she still in there taking his votes? Why doesn't she cede all of her delegates to him, or potential delegates to him now? Yeah, we shouldn't assume that Hillary doesn't know what's going on. And we should never assume that Elizabeth doesn't know what's going on. She treats him as though he is some sort of fringe joke with no place in the Democratic Party, rather than as a man who awakened an entire generation of Americans and is at least partially responsible for the incredible blue wave we've seen in elections all across the country since the last presidential election. She says Clinton has absolutely no desire to learn. I don't know. Again, that seems a little bit naive. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's the Count of Maribor. She's controlled opposition. She's making it look like the Democrats oppose the Republicans, when in fact, they're all working for the same team. Now, this article I wrote, here's wiki proof that the Clinton machine was behind the flood of new Democratic presidential hopefuls, including Elizabeth Warren, who was paid by talent agents who have also been bundlers for both Clintons. So we've got an update with Elizabeth Warren's healthcare daughter and Working Families Party daughter. In this article also is information about the Young Turks, specifically Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur. And we've got how the talent agencies in Hollywood work behind the scenes to bring people in who will oppose Bernie Sanders. You can follow the money trail. Spike Lee, who endorsed Bernie last time, suddenly switched over to Kamala this time. Tim Black is incredulous. How could he do that? Well, his talent agency told him to do that. Jessica Alba works for that talent agent, and she was trying to help Kamala before she dropped out. We've got Seth MacFarlane and Mark Ruffalo, and how things work with them. Mark is still holding strong, but Seth sold out, in my opinion. So I'm just going through this to show you, if you would like to go back and read it carefully, about the WikiLeaks leaked email when they're trying to trash Tulsi Gabbard, these talent agent execs, Darnell Strom and Michael Kives. Here's the WikiLeaks article, a Podesta email that shows that they tried to put the hammer down on Tulsi because she had the audacity to disrespect Hillary Clinton by endorsing Bernie. And more tea to spill about the Clinton train paying the Young Turks $20 million. Cenk Uygur, that's the point of another show. And I would love to talk to Jimmy Dore on his show about Cenk Uygur, because he seems to protect Cenk. But Cenk is the perfect example of controlled opposition, because he'll still, and so is Norm Solomon, by the way, who writes for Common Dreams, because they're still trying to hold Elizabeth Warren up as somebody who would actually try to fix the system. Both of them are elitists. Make no mistake, Norm and Cenk are elitists. And you can't really be an elitist. You can't live in a gated community and look down on the basket of deplorables like they're sneering, snarling, and they want the Democratic Party to win more than they want the people of this country to win. And so they might say, well, yeah, we're behind Bernie. We love Bernie. That doesn't give anybody credibility. What they have to say is they love what Bernie's trying to do for this country, and they're not going to prop up and pretend that somebody else who doesn't actually want to fix what's wrong in this country, they need to be very clear that right now, at least, Bernie Sanders is the only one who has his I guess he has enough, he's above the line in terms of name recognition, in terms of money raised, and in terms of the ground game he has. He's the only true progressive who has a chance to actually fix anything. And the other two true progressives, the younger ones, who want to show the world that they're for real, they need to not wait to endorse him like Alexandria waited to endorse him. They need to be on his side right now, and they need to show the rest of the world over time that they're as serious about fixing what's wrong as he is. So the point of this is to show that Hillary Clinton, if she jumps back in, isn't jumping back in to defeat Donald Trump. Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren are not in this time, as opposed to staying out last time, to defeat Donald Trump. Neera Tanden isn't in it to defeat Donald Trump. David Brock, John Cowan, Center for American Progress, Third Way, Michael Bloomberg, Deval Patrick, they're not in it. Joe Steyer, they're not in it to defeat Donald Trump. They waited, they watched. What are they afraid of? They're not afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of Bernie Sanders. All of them are in it, if they're in it, to defeat Bernie Sanders. Everyone behind the scenes that works for the establishment. They're trying to, like the Count of Maribor, they're trying to give us a more moderate version of revolution. A more moderate revolution, which is no revolution at all. Only Bernie wants to take down the assholes at the top. Everyone else is getting paid by them. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Says Jink. Well, Jink, what does it tell you about you? We know who's paying you, and that's all we need to know. And that's all we need to know about anybody. Follow the money. So Bernie is the existential threat. And if anyone else wants to show that they're on the right side of history, they need to support Bernie. And as they go through, Bernie's bootstraps, Bernie's coattails will be long enough to help them up too. And they'll take their place as time goes on, and they'll show the world through their actions that they are not merely controlled opposition. Right now, it's pretty lonely in the place where Bernie is. There aren't many who are actually there to defeat Donald Trump. They're mostly just there to defeat him. It must feel like et tu Brutus all the time. Lest I forget Mayor Pete. The reason Mayor Pete is in this is to stop Bernie in Iowa. They don't care what happens to him after Iowa. What they want to stop is Bernie getting a succession of 3 primary victories right off the bat, because then they won't have a chance to stop him. That's why Pete is in there. They'll throw Pete to the wolves after that. I wonder if he knows that. The wine cave. To the wine cave. In the meantime, have some more eggnog, throw another log on the fire, and keep on burning.
Get on board the Bernie bus train. Come get on board the Bernie bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Oh, get on board